So, at that point of time, this new person or a new customer or a client by name Guru Nayak approaches the astrologer. The astrologer, sensing the danger and intensity of this client, attempts to withdraw from the situation. What the astrologer told was true, because already the astrologer knew all this had happened to Guru Nayak. By observing and extracting personal information from them, he was able to tell some fortune to them, which was almost like true to their life. So that was how he was very successful. Hello everyone, myself B. Shobharani, faculty in English, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence in Mysuru, heartily welcome you for the session 1 of First Sem BCom English, Story 3 called An Astrologer's Day by R.K. Narayan. It's a very, very interesting story written by a very famous author by name R.K. Narayan called An Astrologer's Day. This is the third story of Unit 2 of First Sem BCom English. So in this particular session, I'll be discussing about a brief introduction of the author of the story, that is R.K. Narayan, who has written this wonderful story called An Astrologer's Day. And what exactly the author tries to say in this story and what is the story all about, I'm going to discuss. And what is the setting and the introduction of the story, how does it start, what is the ambience of the story when it is starting, then the astrologer's background. So the very word itself will tell you, the story itself, the title of the story itself, An Astrologer's Day. So what is the background of the astrologer, encounter with a person, how does he come in contact with a person by name called Guru Nayak, and the twist of the story lies here when he comes in contact with Guru Nayak. Then what will be the astrologer's prediction to this particular person called Guru Nayak, which also means a lot for the story. And the astrologer, after predicting the prediction of Guru Nayak, he comes back home happily. So why is he so happy after coming back home? And what does he narrate to his wife once he comes back to the house after meeting this very important person called Guru Nayak in the story? And the themes and analysis, and finally the conclusion. So we can say the two main characters of the story called An Astrologer's Day by R.K. Narayan is the astrologer himself and the second person called Guru Nayak. So these two persons are the main characters of this wonderful story called An Astrologer's Day. Let me move on to learn about this story. And before I move on to the story, let us have a brief introduction of this famous author called R.K. Narayan, who has written this wonderful and beautiful story called An Astrologer's Day. You can see in the picture the author of this poem, R.K. Narayan. So let me introduce this person, as we already know this person who is well versed in his writing, and I think definitely all of us will never forget a short movie called Malgudi Days. So his complete name, R.K. Narayan, that is Rasipuram Krishna Swami Iyer Narayana Swami, from 1906 to 2001, was born in Madras. So this famous poet called R.K. Narayan, that is the full name is Rasipuram Krishna Swami Iyer Narayana Swami, was born in Madras in 1906. He, along with Mulk Raj Anand and Raja Rao, is considered to be one of the trios means three. R.K. Narayan along with Mulk Raj Anand and Raja Rao, the trios of the early Indian English literature. They are very famous in Indian English literature. So R.K. Narayan received his BSc degree from the Maharaja's College, University of Mysuru. See, he had his college education in Mysuru, that is from University of Mysuru, which is a very, very important point to be noted. So the Mysoreans are very much proud enough to have this great person, great author, great man from the Indian English literature, that is R.K. Narayan. He published his first novel, Swami and Friends, in 1935. As I said, Like if you happen to have watched this short movie called Malgudi Days, Malgudi is just a fictional literary imagination, but that was set up. It was his novel Swami and Friends in 1935. All his novels and short stories are set at Malgudi, a fictional literary microcosm, something which is very big, created by him. So Malgudi Days is something which is very, very much famous, and it is one of his novel what he has written. It's a very good movie, like it's a short movie to watch, this Malgudi Days. Moving on to the further brief description of this author, he published his first 4 books: Swami and Friends, the novel, The Bachelor of Arts, The Dark Room, and The English Teacher, with the help of his friend and mentor Graham Greene, an English writer and journalist. He took the help of a famous English writer, that is Graham Greene. With this help, he wrote very good books like Swami and Friends, The Bachelor of Arts, The Dark Room, and the English Literature. His writing style is compared to William. See, the way he writes the novels or the stories is compared to William Faulkner and Guy de Maupassant for his imagination and the ability to compress the narrative. So in this particular story, you will get to know how he has narrated the story in a very imaginary way and in a very narrative manner. So much so that it is so very interesting to know about the story what he has written in this particular story called The Astrologer's Day. In his literary career, so as I said, he was a very famous English writer. So in his literary career, spanning over 60 years, good long years, he has received many awards and recognitions, including the Padma Vibhushan and the Padma Bhushan. Imagine, this great English writer was awarded the highest award, that is Padma Vibhushan and Padma Bhushan, India's second and third highest civilian awards. What a pride it is to have such a person, R.K. Narayan, who had his education in Mysuru. So imagine such a great writer being awarded with such awards like Padma Vibhushan and Padma Bhushan, which are the second and the third highest awards, civilian awards. He was also nominated for a term in the Rajya Sabha. See, because of all these contributions, he was also recognized and nominated for a term in the Rajya Sabha. Now, what does this author R.K. Narayan wants to convey from this very wonderful story called An Astrologer's Day? An Astrologer's Day by R.K. Narayan is a short story with interesting, ironic twist at the end. So you will get to know at the end of the story, a very, very ironic twist of the story comes. So that is what is very important in this particular story. So he wants to show what an astrologer is and what was the role played by Guru Nanak in this particular story. And how did the astrologer become an astrologer? It was a pleasant surprise to see a person who is not an astrologer becoming an astrologer in this particular story. An astrologer makes a living by telling people's fortune. I think all of us know an astrologer, like many people visit astrologer for many things, to ask about their future or maybe about their present, what is going to happen next. So everybody believes in the telling of the fortune of an astrologer. So also an astrologer makes a living by telling people's fortune. The astrologer is an adept mind, means he's very, very good at reading the minds of the people. So mind reader, he was a very good mind reader. So the astrologer is an adept mind reader as well as a great observer. People who wants to ask about their future visits this astrologer. He used to first read their minds and read their face. He was a very good mind reader and a very good observer, which makes him good at his profession. So he was able to tell something about that person who visits him to ask about their future, because he used to read their minds and he used to have a keen observation of what they say. Based on that, he used to tell about the astrology. So it was like a plus point for the astrologer, having this very good quality of mind reading and also keen observing the customers who visit him to ask about his fortune. One day, so in this story, the author wants to tell us, anyhow, I'm going to go in detail about the story, but in brief, what R.K. Narayan, the famous author of this very famous story called Astrologer's Day wants to depict. One day he is encountered by a stranger who challenges him to guess his past. So in this story, R.K. Narayan says that the astrologer comes across a person instantly, and that is the climax of the story, where who is that person and what is he, how is he coming in contact with this astrologer, and what was the challenge made by that customer called Guru Nayak to the astrologer, and how the astrologer is able to overcome that. All that you are going to come across or get to know in the next slides, coming slides. He provokes him with an offer. Who the customer who visits the astrologer, blessing in disguise, it was the person whom the astrologer knew him, but the customer who visited the astrologer was not able to recognize him, because an astrologer looks so very different with the attire, with the turban, with the with the tilak. So all that and with all the things around him, it makes him something look very different. And astrologers have a very unique feature which will make them look like an astrologer. So he provokes him with an offer. If astrological predictions are accurate, he would pay him money. So there is a challenge made by the customer to the astrologer, telling that if you predict my fortune correctly, I'm going to give you the double the money what I'm supposed to give you. So you have to accept this challenge. So will the astrologer accept this challenge, and will he win in this challenge what the customer has made to the astrologer? All that you'll get to know about in the coming slides of the story. Failing to do so, the astrologer should pay him back double the amount. What was the condition made by the customer called Guru Nayak to the astrologer? That if you tell me what my fortune is correctly, then I'll give you double the money. But if you fail to do so, should give back him the double the amount what was made in the challenge. The astrologer is unwilling at first, but as he senses that there is no out for him, he accepts it reluctantly. Would the astrologer pass this test thrown at him by the stranger? So actually the astrologer did not want to accept the challenge made by the customer, but still there was no other option for him. It was already late, and he got to know that, okay, fine, let me take it up. We'll see whether I'm going to win in this challenge or not. So would the astrologer pass this test thrown at him by the stranger? That is what is very important in the story. The astrologer was nervous and reluctant to deal with the man. As I said in the beginning, he was not a true astrologer. He had become astrologer due to some circumstances. So he was not so very good at astrology, and his only thing was he was an adept mind reader and a very keen observer, and that made him to excel well in his profession. Maybe that was the reason why he took it up as astrology. But here he was very much worried, because he thought, if I am not able to tell the correct fortune of the customer, I have to pay him double the amount what he has made in the condition. The astrologer was nervous and reluctant to deal with the man. Are there reasons for it? Why was he not accepting the challenge? Why he thought twice to accept the challenge? The mystery of the resolution of the conflict is revealed at the end. So all that you will get to know at the end of the story. This is a brief description of the story given by the author. Now we'll move on to the actual plot of the story. I am going to discuss about the summary of the story. So R.K. Narayan's short story, An Astrologer's Day, is a classic piece of Indian literature that blends simplicity with profound narrative depth. So it's a very simple story which happens in everyday life, but it's so very narrative about so very important things the story has to convey to the society. The story is set in a bustling Indian marketplace. The story begins in a bustling means very busy Indian marketplace, and follows a single day in the life of an astrologer. So that was the day, very important day for the astrologer. That particular day where he came across the customer. In life of an astrologer who is revealed to be much more than he seems. So who is actually not an astrologer due to some circumstances, unavoidable circumstances, he became an astrologer, and he took up astrology as his means of earning bread and butter. Maybe that was the reason, but he was not a true astrologer, and he did not have well versed in astrology. Okay, he was not a mastermind in that particular profession. Just he took it up as a chance, and he wanted to earn his lively bread. The story encapsulates themes of fate. Here in this particular story, encapsulates themes of what are all the things this story is going to tell us about. The fate, yes, all of us know. Fate, everybody believes in fate. Guilt is, of course, when you have done something wrong, you will have that guilt feeling. And the human condition through a seemingly mundane, means yet deeply significant encounter. Mundane means dull, yet deeply significant encounter. Now we can see in this picture how an astrologer looks. See, you must see what are all the things an astrologer quite commonly will have. The kauri, and you can see he'll be sitting around, under the tree there, a big tree. So in this beautiful picture, you can see how an astrologer looks. So you can see the saffron turban, and you can see the palmyra. Then you can see so many things spread around him, a piece of cloth, and you can see the kauri, everything. This is how a astrologer looks by his attire. The story opens with a vivid description of the astrologer's workplace. So how will the astrologer's workplace be in this a very important story called An Astrologer's Day? These are all the things what you come across in this very important story. He sets up his small practice under a tamarind tree. So under a tamarind tree, he's sitting below the tamarind tree in a busy marketplace, I told bustling marketplace, creating a space that is part performance, part business. So it was like, part-time business for him. He was sitting there under the tree and started his business every day. So what happened? His tools include a handful of cowrie shells. See, you can see cowrie shells, a square piece of cloth with mystical charts. So you can see something would have written on the charts there, and a bundle of palmyra writing material. So here you can see a bundle of palmyra writing materials. So the scene is set with vibrant descriptions of the market. So when you can imagine how a marketplace will be with so many vendors selling their own things. Some will be selling some fruit, some will be selling some vegetables, or there might be a shop. So that is how a busy marketplace looks. And in that busy marketplace, he was having a small practice of astrology, sitting under a tamarind tree with all these things around him, which shows that he was a true astrologer. The reader is introduced to the astrologer, a man in his mid-30s. So the reader, that is, the astrologer is something, a man of mid-30s who dresses in a way that evokes a sense of mystery and wisdom. By his looks itself, we can tell that, oh fine, this astrologer is so very wise, and definitely whatever he tells is true to his saying, with a saffron turban and a sacred ash mark on his forehead. So you can see the tilak or the sacred ash on his forehead. This appearance is facade, carefully curated, attracted customers and instilled trust. So, the appearance of the astrologer would attract the customers towards him and make him feel that customers, that is, of course, he is a true astrologer. Definitely he is going to tell about their future. So by his looks only, the people were carried away, and they were of the opinion that, yes, of course, this astrologer is so very good at telling the astrology or the future fortune of the customers. So they used to visit him. The astrologer's day begins with routine predictions and consultations. So daily he used to sit and give predictions and consultations, offering advice. So do that. If something has happened, how he used to tell all the solution for the customers' problems. He used to observe them keenly, and he would try to extract more things from them. The personal things he used to try to extract them by talking continuously with them. So with that, he was able to gather some information about their personal things from the customers, and that was a very tactful act of this astrologer, because he was not a true astrologer for his profession. By chance he became an astrologer because he wanted to earn his bread and butter. So in that case, he used to observe very carefully the customers who visited him to ask about his fortune. He would try to gather all the personal information of the customer by talking continuously. So with that information, he used to tell something about their future or about their fortune. That was the tactful act of this astrologer. Despite his lack of actual astrological knowledge, he was not a true astrologer who had studied astrology. As I said, by chance he had become an astrologer, so he did not have much astrological knowledge. He has keen sense of human psychology and uses his so he was a very good psychologist. He used to observe what the customer was, what he speaks, all that keen observations he used to make. And he was a very adept mind reader. And that is also a very good tactful act of this astrologer. Skills to make general statements that resonate with his client. So almost what he was talking to the customers was almost related to them. That is how he used to attract the customers towards his profession. So that was like, the customers who visited him to ask about their futures were so very happy with what the astrologer said, because he used to gather some personal information from them itself and tell something about their fortune. His astuteness means very fastness and ability to read people allow him to make seemingly accurate predictions. So whatever he was telling was almost like accurate, and he used to make accurate predictions, right? Which in turn builds his reputation in the market. That is how he was able to build up his reputation as a good astrologer, because he was an adept mind reader, very good observer, and he was a very good psychologist. So only a psychologist will be able to read somebody's mind, and also the observations what on the face. He was also a face reader, you can say. That all made him to be a very good astrologer. Next, what happened? The story gradually reveals the astrologer's past. Now let us see here astrologer's background. Let us understand, was he a true astrologer in the past? No, definitely not. Because he was not always an astrologer. In fact, he left his village and former life under mysterious circumstances. He had to leave the village under some unavoidable circumstances, mysterious circumstances. What was the reason for him to leave the village and take up astrology as his profession? That is very important point to be noted here. His past is shrouded in secrecy, with hints that he had been involved in some violent altercation that forced him to flee and assume a new identity. There was one incident where he had to fight with somebody. I will tell who that somebody is. And that was the reason, in order to overcome that fear of being punished for what he has done to that person, so he just fled away from the village. And he got to take up a new identity. What was the new identity? His new identity was what? Astrologer, which was not the actual identity in the past. This astrologer identity is something which is new. He has taken it up after fleeing from the village due to unavoidable circumstances or mysterious circumstances. So this was a new life. Profession of being an astrologer was a new life to this astrologer, is both a refuge and a penance. So it is almost like punishment for what he has done for his mistake. It was like self-punishment. Refuge means moving out, and self-punishment for him as he tries to bury his past and make a living through deception. Deception means cheating somebody, and showmanship. Showman means just showing off. Yes, I am a very good astrologer. But how does he pretend? Because he tries to extract all the personal information from the people itself whom approach him to ask about their fortune. So in that way, he used to show off that he is a very good astrologer. In fact, he was not a true astrologer. He was something in the past, but he took it up, astrologer, as his new identity to earn his bread and butter. And he has to move out from the village due to some unavoidable, very mysterious circumstances. He had to move out of the village. Next, encounter with Guru Nayak. Now, as I said you all in the beginning itself, the two very important characters of the story are the astrologer and Guru Nayak. Now, how did the astrologer come in contact with this person called Guru Nayak, and what role does he play in the life of this astrologer? Why this person was so very important for the astrologer, and what difference this person made to his life? That is what is all about in this very important story called An Astrologer's Day by R.K. Narayan. Who is this Guru Nayak then? The narrative takes a dramatic turn when a new client, as I said, many clients or many customers were visiting every day the astrologer. But that one fine day in that busy marketplace where he was set up his place of telling the astrology, he came across a very, very important client by name Guru Nayak, approaches the astrologer at dusk. It was almost like evening. So, at that point of time, this new person or a new customer or a client by name Guru Nayak approaches the astrologer. Now, this client is distinct from the usual crowd. He is something totally different, described as a surly and suspicious man with an aggressive demeanor. His appearance was like he was very, very strict and very, very aggressive. So, his looks were like that. The client who visited at the dusk time to the astrologer. The astrologer's interaction with Guru Nanak becomes the story's central conflict. So this is very, very important climax of the story, we can say. Why this particular situation of the client called Guru Nanak meeting the astrologer is so very important? That is very important here. So the astrologer's interaction with the Guru Nanak becomes the story's central conflict, as I said. Guru Nanak. So when the client called Guru Nanak visits astrologer, Guru Nanak challenges the astrologer, expressing skepticism and demanding accurate answers about his future. So this client called Guru Nanak tells the astrologer that he is supposed to tell him about his fortune. And he is very particular about knowing about his past and the future. That was the reason why Guru Nanak met this disguised astrologer whom he had already met in the past. But Guru Nanak also did not know that it is the same person whom he had come across once in his lifetime. He did not know because of his disguise as an astrologer. So he was almost, with all his clothes, with his attire, with his turban, with the ash mark on his forehead, with all the things around him. He was not able to, Guru Nanak was not able to identify this astrologer, he just thought him to be an astrologer. Next, see here, you can see here. Now, the astrologer, sensing the danger and intensity of this client, attempts to withdraw from the situation. As I said, when Guru Nanak approached the astrologer, his looks were so very aggressive and he was very particular about knowing his future. He was like demanding, I should know my future and my past. So this astrologer is not a true astrologer. He was just in disguise and he was just pretending and showing off that he is an astrologer. But this particular man was so very interested to know about his future. The astrologer thought, what if I tell something wrong about his future or past? So he didn't want to take that risk. So what he did, the astrologer, sensing the danger and intensity of the client, attempts to withdraw from the situation. He said, no, it's already time. So I have to go back home, he says. But however, Guru Nanak insists and offers more money for truthful predictions. But Guru Nanak was very much eager to know about his past and the future. So he wanted to know his predictions. So in that case, he wanted to somehow retain the astrologer in the place and make him to tell about his fortune. So that was how did he say? He wanted to give more money for the astrologer so that he will stay back and tell his fortune, refusing to let the astrologer leave. So however, Guru Nanak insists and offers more money for truthful predictions, refusing to let the astrologer leave. So now the new client who has approached the astrologer in the evening does not want to leave the astrologer going back without telling his fortune. So how did he insist him to stay back? He said, okay, fine, I'll offer you more the money. So you have to tell me the fortune. As the astrologer studies Guru Nanak more closely, he experiences a moment of recognition. This is also a very important point to be noted. So in that marketplace, there was very dull light. There was some green light coming from one of the shop. And this astrologer was not able to identify who this Guru Nanak was. He just thought he's just a client. But at one point of time, there was a splash of the light from one place and he was able to see the face of Guru Nanak. So he was surprised. And when he saw from that little light this person's face, he got to know that he's none other than Guru Nanak. And he was able to recognize him. Who is this Guru Nanak? It is the same person who made him to leave the village under mysterious circumstances. What was that mystery and what was that happened with Guru Nanak that made the astrologer to leave the village and take up a new profession which is not true to his profession? It is revealed that Guru Nanak is the man from his past, the one he believed he had killed in a drunken brawl many years ago. This was a surprising thing for the astrologer. And in that dim light, he was able to recognize this Guru Nanak, the client whom he approached, and was ready to pay how much ever he wanted to know his fortune. And with that little light that was focused on his face, he was able to recognize, and he was none other than the person whom he had come in contact in his past. He had a fight in a drunken state of this one, they came across each other and started fighting. So in that fighting, he had stabbed this Guru Nayak, threw him in a dry well. So that is very important. So during that fight, he had almost killed this Guru Nayak, and thinking that he is dead, he had thrown him in the well. That is what had happened. That was the situation that had made him to flee from his village, being afraid of being punished for the crime what he has done. What was the mistake? What was the crime he had done? He had stabbed this person called Guru Nayak, and not only that, he had thrown him into the dry well. So that made him, the guilt. He was afraid that he would be punished. So he wanted to escape from the punishment, and he wanted to be unnoticed for the crime or the mistake what he has done. So he flee from the village, and he flew from the village and took up a new profession as an astrologer, so that his identity will not be known to everybody. So that was the very important thing that happened here. So how was he able to recognize Guru Nayak? In that light, the little bit of light that was focused on his face, he was able to identify that the person is none other than Guru Nayak, whom he had nearly killed him and thrown him into the dry well. This realization throws the astrologer into a state of shock. He was shocked. Why he was shocked? Because he thought he had killed this person, and that was the reason why he came out of the village and took up the profession as an astrologer. And the same person standing in front of him, won't he be surprised? Of course, he was surprised and shocked. And he quickly regains his composure, but still he remains calm and composed, thinking that yes, I should not show that I know that person, and decides to use this encounter to his advantage. Encounter means how he came across this person. Then he thought, okay, fine. Anyhow, I have come across this person. Somehow I need to get rid of this person, so that again I will escape from the clutches of this mistake what I have done. Next, the astrologer begins to recount details about Guru Nayak's past, specifically the violent attack that he had left him for dead. As I said in the beginning, the astrologer tactfully used the personal information of the clients itself to tell their future. And that was also a plus point here also, where he knew the past of Guru Nayak. He told everything about the past of Guru Nayak, specifically what had happened, how he was being attacked by a person, and he was almost killed by a person and thrown into a dry well. But somehow you have escaped that very big danger and you have survived. All this he tells to Guru Nayak. And of course, Guru Nayak gets surprised to know about his past. He thinks, yes, of course, whatever he is telling is true, what has happened to me in the past. So Guru Nayak is taken aback by the accuracy of these revelations. So he is so very taken aback. Yes, whatever he is telling is true. All this has happened to me in the past, and becomes more attentive. Now he becomes more attentive. Yes, he wants to know more and more about his past. So because almost what the astrologer told was true, because already the astrologer knew all this had happened to Guru Nayak. So the astrologer then predicts that Guru Nayak's assailant means the person who attacked Guru Nayak. The person who attacked Guru Nayak is called as an assailant, is far away, and that he has no need to worry about future threats. See, he wanted to escape from that particular situation from Guru Nayak, because that was the simple reason why he came away from the village and took up astrology as a profession. So, but now he has encountered or come in contact with the same person whom he had thought had killed. So he wanted to escape from the clutches of this client. So what did he do? He said, of course, the assailant the person who wanted to kill you is somewhere very far. So, and that he has no need to worry about future, because that person will not come again in contact with you, or he will meet you again. So that person who has almost killed you is far away, very far away. He advises Guru Nayak to return to his village, but he says, but see, if at all you want to remain away from that person who almost killed you, you have to go back to your village and never come back to the city. So don't come back to the city again. Again, if you come back, that as he will lead a prosperous life if he follows this counsel. Counsel means an advice. He says, see, what I am telling you is, you just go back to your village and never come back to this city. If at all you want to lead a prosperous life, You had to go back to the village. Forget that person who almost killed you. He's very, very far away. He can never come back to you and attack you again. So that was a very good advice to Guru Nanak, and that was also very tactful advice what the astrologer did, so that he can also escape from Guru Nanak. Next, the astrologer's prediction. So what was the astrologer's prediction? Guru Nanak is satisfied with the astrologer's words and agrees to leave the city. So, as I said, Guru Nanak was very much satisfied with all the predictions what the astrologer told to him, because it was all true to his past, all that had happened in the past in his life. And why? How come the astrologer told everything, all the predictions rightly? Because it was he who had almost killed this person. So, he was the one who almost killed the Guru Nanak during a fight, drunken brawl. So all this astrologer knows, but Guru Nanak doesn't know. But he only knows all this has happened in the past. He never came to know that it was the same person, the astrologer, who had attacked him that day and almost killed him and thrown in the dry well. So he pays the astrologer generous. Now he says, as he had made a condition, no, like if you tell my fortune or if you tell my predictions correctly, I'll give you double the amount. If my predictions or fortune are not true, then you have to pay me the double the money. So now Guru Nanak is so very happy to know about his past, and also got to know that the assailant or the person who tried to kill him is far away and he will never meet him again, and he has to leave the village, and so that he can lead a prosperous life in his village. So believing that, he received genuine guidance. So Guru Nanak, believes that he has got a very good guidance from the astrologer. See the fate here. Though the astrologer had committed a very big mistake, but still his luck made him to survive again. So that was the day where he was not punished for his act of cruelty, but yet here also he was not identified by Guru Nanak. So again, this time also he escaped from the clutches of punishment. See, that is what we call it as luck. So luck by chance. So 2 times also he has escaped the punishment. So he pays the astrologer generously. So now the Guru Nanak is so very happy to know about his future and about his past. So he was very happy and thought that, okay, fine, whatever guidance he has given is true to his life. So he pays the astrologer generously. So he gives him a lot of money. The astrologer, relieved and emotionally drained, reflects on the encounter. So now there is a great sigh of relief from the astrologer. Oh, of course, my lord, I have been saved from this person, the same person whom I had attacked and almost killed him. But I have come in contact with the same person. But the very luck of mine is he is not able to identify me because of my looks. He had managed to save himself from potential danger, and more importantly, had received confirmation that the man he thought he had killed was still alive. So, Guru Nanak got to know from the astrologer that the person who almost killed you is still alive, but is very, very far away. So, he cannot come back to you and again attack you next time. So, leave that person is gone. So, you can go happily back to your village and lead a prosperous. So, that gave a great sense of satisfaction to Guru Nanak and to give more money to the astrologer. Now, the astrologers returned home. So, in the evening now, the story concludes with the astrologer returning home to his wife. So in the evening, so all the Guru Nanak just goes away, giving lots of money for the astrologer for telling his past and future, and for the true predictions what the astrologer made. Till that point of time, Guru Nanak does not come to know about the astrologer, that it was the same person whom he was attacked by. So he doesn't know that. So now he is very happy. The astrologer is very happy that he has not been recognized by the client whom he met in the evening, a very important client by name Guru Nanak, whom he had thought had killed, and that was the reason why he escaped from the village and took up a new profession as an astrologer. So he shares the day's events with her, revealing the burden of guilt he had carried for years. Of course, the astrologer was every day, though he had taken up the profession of astrology, but he had some guilt in his mind that he has committed some mistake, some crime. He had almost killed a person and thought that person is already dead because he had thrown him in the well. So all that made him to feel very guilty for the act what he has done in the past. And that evening he comes back home and he tells all the story to his wife. He thought of sharing what was in his mind to his wife, which was not known by his wife. His wife did not know all this story, that he had escaped from the village because of this simple reason, that he had almost killed a person and he had thrown him, and he thought he had killed a person, and that was the reason why he came away from the village. His wife, who was unaware of the true nature of his past, the wife did not know the past of her husband. So his wife, when only she came to know about the true story, only when the astrologer shared all the things what has happened in his life with the wife, then is shocked but relieved to know that the man he had thought he had killed had survived. And she is also shocked. My lord, my husband was such a person. He has committed a crime, but still he has no guilt. And all these years I have been living with this person who has committed a crime. But at the same time, she was shocked for that reason. But at the same time, she was very happy. Why? Thinking that my husband had almost killed, was not killed, and he had survived. So that satisfaction in her mind, though she was shocked for the act of her husband, what he had done in the past, but at the same time she was relieved for some time, because she thought, okay, fine, it's okay, whatever he has done is done, but at least that person is alive. That is the great satisfaction which is giving me, she thought. So this revelation brings a sense of closure and redemption for the astrologer. When he says everything to his wife, all about his past and what he had, and how he came across the same person whom he had thought killed, and how that person is alive, and how he got rid of him, telling him to go away for his village and never to come back to his city to meet him again. So that was one very important thing. He feels a weight lifted from his conscience. So all these years he had a guilt feeling that he had killed a person. So definitely we can call it as heavy weight. Heart heavy weight means, you will have that feeling that every day you will be having that guilt. Yes, I have done some mistake. So he feels a weight lifted. So now he's very, very very nice, like, oh fine, everything whatever had happened everything is for good. His conscience allowing him to continue his life without the shadow of his past hanging over him. So now he thought, okay, fine, everything has been fine now. All my past has been end with a very good ending. So now I can lead my life very happily. That was his thought in his mind. So what is the theme and analysis? So hope you all have understood the story by R.K. Narayan called An Astrologer's Day, and the two very important characters, that is the astrologer and Guru Nanak. So hope you all have understood what was the scene, how was the time, like what time made him to come across with a client called Guru Nanak, who is a very important person of the story. And I have already explained what happened when he came in contact with the astrologer. All that I have explained. So now, what is the theme and analysis of this story then? R.K. Narayan's Astrologer's Day masterfully explores several themes. So what is the first theme? Very important theme of the story called An Astrologer's Day, fate and free will. See, though the astrologer had committed a crime, he was not punished, and luckily he escaped the punishment twice. Once he came away from the village, and that was how he escaped, and he was in a disguise as a astrologer, so that made him to escape from the punishment. And second time, the same person whom he had thought almost killed, was alive again, and he came in contact with him. But how was he able to escape from that person called Guru Nanak? So all that fate, the story delves into the interplay between fate and free will. The astrologer's profession revolves around the concept of fate. So why did he take up the profession of the astrologer? Because it was something like, instantly he had to take up this profession as an astrologer, though he was not having much knowledge about astrology. Just luck by chance he took up this profession, because he wanted to earn his lively bread. He wanted to earn his bread and butter, and not only that, he wanted to escape from the punishment from the villagers for having done such a big crime. So he wanted to move away from the village. So he came out and took up astrology as a profession. So fate, yet his success is built on deception and manipulation. See, where he was very, very cunning and cheating. So he was cheating all the customers or the clients whom he used to meet, who come to meet him to ask about his fortune. He was not having any knowledge about, he had never studied about astrology. Just by looking their looks, by observing and extracting personal information from them, he was able to tell some fortune to them, which was almost like true to their life. So that was how he was very successful. His encounter with Guru Nanak, however, is an instant of fate catching up with him. Again, see, that day when the client Guru Nanak approached him, that was also, he thought he had killed almost, so he had forgot that. But yes, he had the guilt that he had killed that person. But the fate, see there, again he came across the same person whom he had thought had killed. So that was also one instant. This meeting forces the astrologer to confront his past and shapes his future actions, blending the notions of predestination and personal agency. Means, so he thought, okay, fine, for the crime, what I have done now, okay, let me do good to the other people. Though he was not telling the true astrology to the clients whom he used to come across in everyday life, but yet he thought, okay, fine, I have to mend my ways. Next, guilt and redemption. The astrologer's entire new life is a form of escape from his guilt-ridden past. His belief that he had killed a man drives him to adopt a new identity and live in constant fear of retribution. Means he always had that fear, okay, one day or the other somebody will get to know about the crime what I have done, that I have killed a person, and definitely I'll be punished one day or the other. So he had that in his mind. So he was leading a life full of guilt and redemption. The encounter with Guru Nanak becomes a pivotal moment of redemption. By realizing that his victim survived, the astrologer is freed from his guilt and can move forward with a clearer conscience. Though he had a guilt that, yes, of course, I have almost killed a person. That was the guilt what he had. But at the same time, what was that? When he got to know that that person is still alive, he had a great relief that, okay, fine, the person has not died, he is still alive. Though that made him very self-satisfied. Appearance versus reality. Here in this particular story, the author tries to tell that the astrologer is not a true astrologer, but his appearance made him to look like an astrologer with all his turban, with the ash on his forehead, with that kauri, and with a piece of cloth having all very mystical things around him that made him to look like a astrologer. The story emphasized that the difference between an appearance and reality. In reality, he was not an astrologer. In reality, he was he was a convict. He had committed some mistake, but yet he had become an astrologer. The astrologer appears wise and knowledgeable, but in reality, he relies on keen observation and common sense rather than astrological expertise. He was not at all an astrological expertise. He had just became an astrologer just by chance, by instance, which the situations made him to become an astrologer, but he was not an astrological expertise. So, but he was very, very clever. He was a very good psychologist where he used to observe, mind read. He was a very good mind reader of the clients who approached him for their astrological predictions. All that made him to become a very good astrologer. So, similarly, Guru Nanak initially appears threatening and skeptical, but ultimately reveals a vulnerable side when seeking the astrologer's guidance. So, though the Guru Nanak, he was like, his appearance were very threatening and skeptical, but ultimately reveals a vulnerable side when seeking the astrologer guidance. But he got to know from the astrologer that something had happened, very bad thing had happened in his life, where he came across a fight with a person who almost stabbed him and thrown him into the well, but by God's grace, he was survived. The narrative highlights how people's appearance can be deceptive and how true understanding requires looking beyond the surface. So you cannot judge a person by his face. So whenever, many of the people who approached the astrologer were so very happy about his telling about about their futures, because his looks was like that. But he was a deceptive astrologer. He used to cheat everybody. And he was not telling the true astrological predictions. Then, the human condition. So here in this story called An Astrologer's Day, Narayan portrays the human condition with all its complexity. So what was all filled in this story? Fear, guilt, deception, and the quest for redemption. So he wanted to come out of that guilt, but he was very happy when he got to know that the same person whom he had thought killed was alive. The astrologer's journey from a life of violence. See how there was a great transformation in the life of this person. From the violent life, he became an astrologer. So he was in a drunken brawl. He had almost killed a person and thrown him into a well. So from violence, one of the apparent wisdom reflects the human capacity for change and the perpetual struggle to reconcile with one's past. So something, if bad has happened, we try to conceal it or we try to hide it. So because thinking that something bad has happened, okay, fine, let us not think about it again and again. If something wrong has been done by you, definitely that guilt will be in one corner of the heart. So the story also underscores the universal desire for guidance and reassurance as seen in the various clients who seek the astrologer's advice. Every client who visits an astrologer will go to an astrologer with a positive thought that yes, of course, some solution will be given to our problems, and of course we'll be leading a very happy life. So, conclusion. What is the final conclusion of the story called An Astrologer's Day by R.K. Narayan? An Astrologer's Day is a profound exploration of human nature and destiny. See, destiny is something has to happen means it will happen. And see, that is what you have come across in this story itself, how the astrologer became an astrologer and how he was able to come across Guru Nanak, the same person whom he thought he had killed. So, wrapped in the simplicity of a day in the life of an ordinary man. The astrologer was a simple man, very ordinary man. But how did he become so very famous? By his deceptive nature and by his looks, he had become a very good astrologer. Through the character of an astrologer, Narayan examines the themes of fate, guilt, and redemption, while also offering a commentary on the human tendency to judge based on appearance. So here, every client was very happy with the predictions what the astrologer made to them, because by his looks, by his way of talking, as I said in the beginning itself, the astrologer used to involve the clients into communicating continuously, so that he would extract some personal details from the clients, and that he was using the same information to tell to the clients about their future. So the story's unexpected twist and the resolution of the astrologer's internal conflict provide a satisfying and thought-provoking conclusion. See, when Guru Nanak was told about his past by the astrologer, definitely, though Guru Nanak did not identify this astrologer, that it was the same person who had attacked him, but he was very happy thinking that yes, whatever had happened in the past, he has told me, though he is some person who is new to me. So that made him the happy. Narayan's skillful storytelling. See how very nicely in this story Narayan tells about the astrologer and how he came. An astrologer's day means the day when the astrologer met this person, very unique person, a very unique character called Guru Nanak. Rich with cultural and social nuances, makes an astrologer's day a compelling read that resonates with readers on multiple levels. So we come across so many things in the story. It serves as a reminder of the intricate web of human experience. See, here itself you have come across so many experiences. Even the wife did not know the past of her husband, but when she got to know about the past of her husband, she was shocked, thinking that, oh my lord, my husband has committed such a big crime. But of course, I am relieved of, because the same person whom she thought her husband had killed was alive. So, and the often unpredictable ways. So, never the astrologer thought that one fine day he is going to come back and meet a same person whom he had almost killed, that is Guru Nanak. So, that was something like unpredictable. It was also unpredictable that he escaped from Guru Nanak, because he was not able to identify him. Because astrologer was able to identify Guru Nanak, but Guru Nanak was not able to identify the astrologer by his looks, and was not able to identify him as the same. If at all, if Guru Nanak had identified this astrologer that it was the same person, he would have punished him, but that did not happen. So something which is unpredictable, in which our past and present intertwine. Hope you all have understood this wonderful story called An Astrologer's Day by R.K. Narayan, and which is a wonderful story, and hope you all have understood about the astrologer and the person or the client whom he met, that is Guru Nanak. So this is a wonderful story of R.K. Narayan. This is the third story of Unit 2 of First Sem BCom English syllabus called An Astrologer's Day by R.K. Narayan. Thank you.